Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fat Man Little Trail, the podcast where everyone is invited on this trail. I am your guide for today, Greg. First off, I want to say hi to all those people that are on iTunes. We're on iTunes now, so that's exciting for us. And I know I'm going to have a really great episode for you today. If you do enjoy the episode, make sure you like and share it on whatever platform that you're listening on. And don't forget to follow me, Fat Man Little Trail, on Instagram and Facebook if you could. Also, if you want to support the podcast, even something like 99 cents a month would go a long way to helping bring the content that you guys enjoy to you each month. So you can find a link on my bio to that. I want to get right into my Chewing the Fat segment today. Usually I know stuff about what I'm going to talk to my guest about. You know, I know a little bit, but I want to bring an expert on to give you guys better information. Today, that is not the case. I'm excited for today's guest, though. Kristin is with us. She is the creator and runs the website Raising Hikers, about raising or hiking with children, something that I absolutely know nothing about. I don't have kids, so this is going to be really good and educational. Kristin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
So obviously, you know, you run the website about raising hikers and hiking with kids, but were you always, I want to go a little bit further back, were you always an outdoors person, an athletic person, or did that start when you had the kids?
Well, outdoors and athletic maybe being different, huh?
Absolutely.
I was raised in San Diego, so I was outside a lot, but I was definitely not raised in the outdoors as I would say that my kids are. I was pretty athletic. We were moved a lot outside, and I played volleyball in high school and those sorts of things. But I never really got into hiking. Southern California, it's not a part of the culture as much as some of the areas I lived later in life. So it wasn't until I moved to Washington, so I moved to Seattle area after college, that I really got into it. It's also, there's something about moving to a new city where you know no one, that hiking is a great way to always have plans on the weekends. So I did a lot of hiking in Washington, and then I met my now husband, and he is a big outdoor enthusiast and one of those lucky kids like I am raising, who went to every national park every summer growing up, and those sorts of experiences that I never had. So through dating and early marriage with him, it was like a world was opened in the North Cascades and in Olympic National Park, and just traveled a lot all over the country and the world. And I think we both at that point decided and agreed we are not going to stop adventuring when we have kids. And I really think that's all it takes. It's that acknowledgement together, or as a parent, to say I'm going to keep adventuring even after I have kids.
And as a guy who runs a blog called Fat Man Little Trail, I should regress and not combine athletic and outdoors, even though I'm active but I'm not athletic. I will say that. So I agree with you on
yes.
So how old are your kids
now? They are 5 and 6. My daughter is 6, and my daughter Emerson and my son Walker is 5. They're just about 15 months apart. So basically like twins. I had 2 babies on the trail at once.
So when you first took them out hiking, were you terrified? Like, how did that work out?
I just, my personality, I'm not a big worrier in general. I think if I was always combating worry just in my natural personality, I think I would have a lot harder time with our lifestyle. There are moments when they're climbing really high that it comes up, but I would say that's probably the most worried I've ever been, was on the very first hike with our daughter, or specifically I'd say our very first camping trip. We went camping at Crater Lake in Oregon, and of course it snowed while we were there, and so all those things of how are they going to sleep, are they going to sleep, what are they going to sleep on, did we bring enough food, is a bear going to eat us? All of those thoughts definitely on the first hike, first camping, and then that was what she was 12 weeks, and then just a few weeks later, our first backpacking trip with her. I would say those 2 were my highest, and then now, in our first hiking trip with my son, maybe it's the second kid, but no, I don't worry now. A healthy amount, of course. Everybody has to have a little bit, but I think it was more so those first times.
Those are the same concerns I have. Like, where can I take a nap? Did I bring enough food? Am I going to
Yes,
get eaten by a bear?
it's the
You know,
same concerns.
exactly. So do you think that, I mean, 12 weeks, that's pretty young. Obviously, you've got them in your backpack and stuff like that. Do you think that that's something that all parents should do, or do you think that's an age that is, again, I don't have children, so like where do you think that age cutoff should start, or like the earlier you get them into it, is that the better for the kids?
Hard. I have some mixed thoughts on that. I don't necessarily think the earlier you get them into this, the better chance they're going to enjoy it later. I think that's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves as parents to say, oh, I didn't do it in their first 2 years of life and they're never going to love the outdoors. I don't think that, but I think if you have a personal passion to be outside, then there is no too soon to get on the trail, really. And I think it's not for the kids. It's not for the kids at all. It's for the parents. And so I would say the best time to get on the trail is when mom feels like she is ready to get on the trail. I really don't think it has anything to do with age of kids. It's more of recovery and being ready to hike and carry a baby versus we young, because babies are the easiest. I mean, that is the stage. And I think back at that stage for hiking, we did every hike we ever did before kids, we could do in that first year because it was really just carrying them. Right. And carrying all their stuff. And I will say there is a lot more stuff that comes along with having kids, but you don't have to deal with the emotional gymnastics of trying to get a 3-year-old down the trail. So
when I was younger, we did more of the glamping. We would have motorhomes, and my parents liked to take these long road trips, and we'd go, one year we went out west and saw the Badlands and things like that. And one year we went down to like Disney World, but up the East Coast. And one year, so we did those things. And then I went and spent, so I was into that as a kid, and we camped and things like that. And then I spent, I went to high school and I went did sports, and I went to college, and then and things like that. And then I got a job, and I didn't go outside for like 20 years. And then I got back into it. So I agree with you. Like, just doing it while you're younger doesn't mean it's going to ingrain something, at a certain age, so I definitely understand that. Your website does have some, and we're going to talk more about the website in a second, but I wanted to look into some of the things that were on there. And I saw this great post, which is like the 5, but I think it's 6 things that you teach your kids or that you want to teach your kids. So I was wondering if we could go over that and kind of show people a little bit of what's on the website and some of the content that you provide. And these were great. I love this blog post. So the 5 things you teach your kids. Number 1, always prepare. Tell me about that. Always be prepared. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think especially when I wrote this in the mindset of my 5 and 6-year-old. So I think at whatever stage you can get them involved in the preparation, just it creates such a buy-in on the trail. So really helping them learn what we need to pack and what we're bringing, looking at maps ahead of time. We're a paper map kind of family. So I think that is fun for them to, we actually get the maps out, see where we're going. And so that preparation there as far as what you're packing and, where you're going, having those maps with you on the trail, having enough water, especially, we're both Colorado, Denver area, having extra layers, even in the summer, could snow on you, you just never know. So, that sort of preparation is really something we want to teach them because we really try now. And obviously I check their bags, but, pack their own bags. And so that it's part of the learning and responsibility and contribution of our family adventures.
Do they get any input into where you're going to go hike? Are they to that stage yet? Like, Mom, I want to see a waterfall.
I will give them options. So yeah, last weekend, it's the same parenting tricks we do in every aspect of life. 2 choices, both of them that I am okay with. So yeah, I do think that they enjoy that better when they can have a little bit of a say, but most of the time, and based on, the list of selfishly the adventures that my husband Bryce and I want to do, they're usually just along for the ride. But they really want to do a 14er. They really want to, there's things like that, that like if they can have a choice, if we said, what do you want to do this Saturday for a hike? For sure, out of both of their mouths would be a 14er. So
I don't even want to do a 14. I've been avoiding them.
well, they've tried a handful of times and we've just had the worst luck. So I feel like they have this unfinished business sort of mentality.
I feel like nowadays, if you don't go at 2 a.m, you're not going to get onto the, a good parking place to be able to get onto the trail. And that's got to be hard with, younger kids trying to get them up for these early morning hikes and things like that.
Yeah, so that goes to the be prepared too, be prepared in going to bed early and planning what time you're going to get up. I mean, that's always been a big part of our family adventures is they know, we set the alarm if it's a big adventure like that, 4 a.m., 4:30, and that's just, but they pop up in those scenarios like they never would if it was like, 4 a.m. for school or something.
Right. So number 2 on your list is stay on the trail and in sight. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I think that's a safety and leave no trace one for me, kind of combines both in teaching kids. And I think when we look at leave no trace principles, that whole article could be about teaching kids leave no trace. And I definitely will write one about that soon. But I think that the one that they typically, most kids are not going to just go up to wildlife or, picking flowers. Some of those things we have to work on, but the staying on the trail one is, I think, what is that natural pull for them to go explore here or, tromp over these flowers here or, so that's one that we like to teach right off the bat. And, now my kids are trail police to everybody on the trail, stay on the trail, they're always saying, because they've heard me say it 1,000 times, but I think it's just a good thing for them to learn. And for a safety standpoint, there's ledges and who knows what's up around that bend, or if there's a bear up around that bend or whatever the potential things that I would worry about, knowing that those rules are in place really help put me at ease.
I know a lot of adults that could use that stay on the trail rules these days. It seems like,
yeah. Well, if my kids see them, they'll tell them.
Nice. Number 3 on your 5 things to teach kids before they go hiking or as they go hiking is be a kind hiker. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I think I just think there's so much social development that happens on the trail for kids, and I think this is one way. My daughter is shyer, and I think that I really watched her blossom in social skills just from hiking, by saying hello to hikers going by, to learning trail etiquette of stepping to the side for a hiker coming up, and just kind of learning those I say be a kind hiker because I think that's a concept that kids can wrap their head around well, and I think there's just a lot that we could all learn of being kind humans, and it's a great place to practice that is on the trail.
I live downtown Denver, and we kind of when you live downtown in a city, it's kind of like, don't make that much eye contact, just go to where you're going. So you don't really talk to people because you're in the city, type of thing. And then as soon as you get out on the trail, it's like, so you're like, hey buddy, how you doing? Everybody's waving and talking, and it's just such a different world. So it's great to see you teaching that in the kids early.
It's such a good point. Yeah, because I think we're so inclined to not speak to people we don't know, heads and phones these days everywhere you go. And a lot of that is just really, we're disconnected in that way on the trail. And I think we get to be more of like raw humans. So I love that.
My favorite part is that your phones don't work out on
Yes,
most of the trails.
exactly.
You can look at it all you want. It's just a blank screen.
Yeah, just a break.
All right. Going back to the list, we've got the number 4 is keep the wild wild. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think that's touching on, for me, what I want to teach my kids is, we are just visitors here. And really that, again, ingraining those leave no trace principles without teaching leave no trace in that sense. So, just knowing that, we don't pick flowers, and trying to really teach them, not because of these are the rules, although although I do think, and I don't know if I tell this story and that in that article or not, but there we did use that, the ranger is going to see you, and kind of approach it on one hike. And I remember it just terrified my son. And every time we would just slightly go off trail or whatever, he's like, I don't want you to go to trail jail. And like, he was just so terrified. But I think in general, teaching it more of why this is important, and that, this plant is alive, and we want this plant to be here, and for the bees to be able to pollinate on this flower, and things like that. And then just wildlife from a safety standpoint, keep the wild. We do see a lot of wildlife. We've seen our fair share of bears on the trail with our kids, and not, luckily not in any scary situations or in real, grizzly country or anything like that. But just giving distance. We're not there to pet the mountain goat. So.
Well, and that happens so often, like especially people that come out and visit, and you hear about it up in like Estes Park and different places where people go and they're like, oh, look at the elk, and they walk up and they want to pet it, or they see a moose. And we've had 5 or 6 moose attacks in the last 2 weeks here in Colorado, because people just like, oh, well, it's a moose, I can get close and take a really cool picture. And then the moose attacks, and like, why'd the moose attack me? Well, because it's a wild animal. These are wild animals.
Yeah, and this giant moose terrified me.
Oh, the moose moose terrify me. And my cousin is obsessed with them. She wants this. She's been here for a lot longer than me, and she's never seen a moose. So she's like,
wow,
take me somewhere to go see a moose. And I'm like, I don't want to see a moose. Like, my goal is to, once you see one, you're like, I never want to see one again. And then you start seeing them everywhere, So you've mentioned this one a couple times about leave no trace. So number 5 on your list of top 5 is do more than leave no trace, leave it better. Can you explain that one?
Yeah, I think, again, these are principles that I think transcend the trail, right? Like I think of these as you can talk about these in any area of life, and just trying to raise good humans. But I think for that one, what we really try to do and try to model, most of this is modeling, right? Is, picking up trash on trails, and like, how can we leave this space better than when we came to it? And it's funny because my other job, I work in the childcare industry, and run a nanny company. And it's one of our slogans in the nanny world as well, like, leave it better. When you come into a family's home, leaving it better than when you arrived. And it's so true, just in so many aspects of life. So we really try to do that in the outdoors too.
Well, and you say you learn a lot from the trail that relates to normal people, and it's true. There's so many lessons that you get that you don't get in kindergarten, but when you're out on the trail, they become apparent of why that makes sense. And I think that's a perfect way to put it there.
Yeah.
And then, because hikers aren't necessarily good at math, you have a 6th thing in your top 5 things to teach kids. And the 6th thing is the most important, I think. Hiking is fun, right?
Yes. I think I got through my 5 and I was like, shoot, where do I fit in the fun? This all sounds like a lesson. I mean, really, and I think that one, we would not have the life that we had and hike every weekend and have this be our family time of choice if we didn't think it was fun. And obviously, I'm talking about like from the macro level, like at the micro level, not all the moments are fun for sure. But I think I try to really infuse that fun into even those moments that feel pretty miserable. Just trying to dance on the trail, or take jumping photos, or tell silly jokes, or potty humor, whatever it takes. So for us, I think that if we're having fun, it's easier for them to see why we're doing this, versus if families just want to get out there for the sake of this is good for my kid and we should do it, and that's going to be felt. And I would say there are so many other wonderful things that you could do as a family that would be more fun. If it's more fun for everyone, like choose that. Like this is what's fun for me. And so, I try to make it fun for them.
Well, and that kind of leads me into my next question was, I went out with my nephews the other day and I was like, okay, well, these kids, I should know their ages, but I'm just going to say they're like 5 and 2.
Yeah.
Sorry, Claire. But, I went out with them and I was like, oh, we're going to, have to go slow and take all these breaks. And then kids have endless energy. I learned, number one, and I needed more breaks than the kids did. And two, that, they were just curious about everything. So when you're hiking with the younger kids, do you need to work in not like a lesson, but like ways to keep them focused, or like to have games, or to be like, okay, well, count how many yellow flowers you see or something like that? Does that help keep them like their minds going when they're on the trail? Like, I don't really know how to ask that, but I just, with these kids running around, I was like, man, how do we do this?
How to focus that attention or energy. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, just personally, like, I think it's a great idea. I think there are like so many wonderful like nature scavenger hunts that you can do. I think for us, like we do more, find the game as you get on the trail and see what's like relevant, and just talking about the things that we see on the trail, but keeping them moving is for sure the biggest challenge. And so I think, we try to have now at the ages that they are, like some little ground rules that they know, like, okay, like we get to stop every mile for a snack. And that might feel extreme for some families, like that might feel like too far. But that has worked for us. Like, okay, we know that we're almost to that mile. They can see it on the all trails, they can get a sense of where we are. And then just tons of the like competition games, like those work for us. Like who can run to that log, or who can walk in a straight line, or like, do you think you can hike and pat your head at the same time? Like,
no. I could not do that.
Those sorts of little games kind of help us to keep moving. And then just a ton, and I actually have a blog post about like what to do when your kid does not want to hike, because I think that is the biggest thing that people face on the trail. And so like for us, the biggest thing is like tons of positive reinforcement before they get to that meltdown stage, and just trying to get like a little bit ahead of it when you can, and then just always being prepared to pick them up and carry them. So we still carry our 5-year-old on the trail sometimes. He's just not at the same level that his sister is, and that's okay. And there's one philosophy that would say like, okay, we're going to hike to little brother's capabilities, and there's another philosophy, which is us, which is like, we'll hike until you peter out and then we'll carry you. So I think either of those definitely work.
So how do you set like the max distance? Is that just trial and error with the kids? Like you've kind of, well, they did 3 miles today, maybe they can do 3.5 the next time, and do you just kind of work it up that way, or is that the best way to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's really different for every kid. It's really, I've heard someone say, a half a mile for every year that they are is like a good rule of thumb. My daughter's 6 and she's done 12 miles. So she would be on the other side of that scale, 2 miles per number of year. So obviously that's a really wide range. And so for us, we look at it at like each kind of season, especially in the summer. That's usually when we're going to do longer hikes. Like we still try to hike all year round, but they're usually shorter hikes and snowshoeing or snow hikes, which you can get away with doing shorter trails and still feeling pretty fun. So, but in the summer, yeah, we kind of start a little bit on the lower side and build up. Like we always have one of our bigger hikes that we're always going to talk about through the season. This year it was out in Maroon Bells and getting up to Buckskin Pass. And so we built that up, and we talk constantly about last year you did 8.5. Do you think you can do 10 this year? And so just kind of building that excitement around their achievements of being able to hike farther. And that seems to work with their personalities, but that's always different for every kid.
Now when I'm selecting hikes, I'm like, oh, 12 miles, really? I can't. Where are the 2 mile hikes? I love
Oh
those.
yeah, it was hard for me. Trust me. I could only do it because we were doing it at kid pace. Like someone asked me, "How do you do these long hikes?" And I'm like, "Slowly. That's how."
Yeah. Well, and kids don't wake up as sore as we do as we get older.
They
I've learned
don't.
like
They
things don't
don't.
crack on kids like they crack on me when I wake up.
Yes, I agree.
I want to turn to your website now because I really enjoy your website, and I think you've done a really good job with it. What was kind of like the goal in creating it? Was it just to tell these stories?
No, really. I mean, really, for me, I mean, yes, to tell the stories, but also to provide, I think, tips and tricks and try to make getting outside with kids not so scary. I think it's really easy for us in this world to see like adventure families just it's like really extreme and it's like traveling across the world or living in an RV full time. I mean, those are like the norm of what we see in imagery right now of being an outside family. So I think for me, I felt like there's got to be a place here where there's we're not just looking for 100% kid friendly hikes. Like we still want to keep our hikes that we want to do but bring our kids along, and how do you kind of piece those two things together. So that was really my goal. And then we've kind of transformed into hiking, giving suggestions of hikes to do here in Colorado and national parks and some travel across the US as well. Because for us, all of our travel is where are we hiking and then where do we want to stay that's near our hiking. So trying to find those types of travel ideas for families.
That was kind of my idea. Like so many of the hiking blogs are just, okay, I'm a 22-year-old athlete and I ran up this 14er
Yes.
and it took me 45 minutes. And I was like, well, I'm a 40-year-old, like out of shape dude. Like, where's my guide? And that's why I
Yes.
did it. And it sounds like a similar idea of, where do people with two small children, like, how do they get onto the trail? How do they start?
Yeah. And can you be an adventure family and still work full time? And the answer is yes.
Mhm.
I think that's a intimidating thing right now out in the outdoor space is this people who are out traveling full time and outdoors full time. So trying to find that space for kids who we don't homeschool. That's also a niche that where you can go exploring a trail on a Tuesday. We are weekend warriors. So what does that look like, and where are we going to go on the weekends and 3-day weekends and things like that.
So do you hike every weekend then with your kids?
We hiked every weekend for the last 6 months, I think.
Wow.
Yes, yeah, we do hike every weekend.
Is that
But we'll have some up fall is usually this like, oh my gosh, what a crazy summer, right? And then we start to all of a sudden fill it back up because that's what we love doing.
does that get hard on the kids, or do they get to the point where they're like looking forward to the weekend, or do they ever get to that, oh mom, another hike?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My daughter has straight up used the words on a trail. Why do we have to be a hiking family? It's like it's usually that first 30 minutes. We went through a phase with her over the last summer where that first 30 minutes was just really tough. And then she'd, see a creek or see something, or if she would get, snap out of it. And then it was like the best day ever. So sometimes that lead up to it. But for the most part, like now that they're in school, usually the hikes are local and they look forward to that local adventure versus hanging out here. They definitely would rather be outside.
One of my most popular blogs that I wrote is not the most family friendly. It's not bad at all, but the title is "Screw It, I'm Trying." And what it is it's like the stages of grief, but for hiking. So denial is, oh, I'm gonna, this hike's gonna be easy. I'm gonna make it to the end real quick. And then finally, there's acceptance where it's like, okay, this is I'm miserable, but I'm gonna be really happy as soon as I find that point in the hike. And I'm the same way. Like, your daughter said, or you said your daughter said that, she's miserable for 30 minutes and then she sees a creek or something. And I'm like, I'm miserable for about 4 hours. And then I'm like, holy cow, this view's amazing. And then I'm so happy. I'm like skipping down the trail on the way back. And so, and I don't think that's just native to children at that point.
Right. I just took my friend on her first 14er, and just like the whole way she's like, how this is fun, like this is what you do for fun. I don't understand. And I was like, well, like this moment isn't fun, but like just wait, just wait. So yeah.
When you look back at it, when you look back at it, it'll be very fun. So getting back to your website, one of the things that you do a lot of his product reviews. And one of the interesting things that, because I do product reviews too, but I didn't think about the fact is like kids are always growing. So you can't buy them the most expensive pair of hiking boots for one season because they might grow out of them the next season. And it kind of takes all of that into account in your reviews, which is something that I didn't think about. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I think that, and that's another, just kind of going back to your other question about why I started this. I think there's also a lot of gear fear with people getting into hiking and needing to have the best gear. And I think that when it comes to my kids, like, we know that really good gear lasts a long time, and there's a high benefit in having really high quality gear that oftentimes costs a lot of money. We've had our same backpacking tent for 12 years. But for kids who are growing, really, and kids who, for my kids, may or may not want to put hiking boots on. So putting that, money into, if they're going to hike in tennis shoes happily, or they're going to hike upset because their feet hurt in boots, like just hike in the tennis shoes, hike in whatever they will hike in. And I think in my last hiking shoes, it was that, like, what's the best shoe to hike in? Whatever one your child will wear. So
Yes.
that's the answer. But I think, there's fantastic gear for kids. But I think it's trying to find ways, and, either through used gear sites, through the outlet sales that happen, through passing down, like, I just always trying to look for that gender neutral colors, finding another buddy who has a similar lifestyle as you that's a couple years older, and making a deal. I think those are really helpful at this age, and not being like, for a lot of other things, just not worrying if I get a lot of questions, and people come to me in my personal life now, especially now that I write this blog, and they're like, okay, so what winter coat should I get? And I'm like, last year we got ours at Target. So,
Yeah.
whatever, because they're going to grow out of it. And so, or just looking for those deals is even more important than it is for us, because I've had my same winter jacket probably 7 years.
Yeah. Do your kids wear backpacks when they hike?
Sometimes they were in a rhythm of it. They do enjoy wearing them. So yes, we kind of got out of the rhythm of it, but they did wear them for a good chunk of hikes in the summer. And then they wore their own when we backpacked with them in the early summer. They loved that. And my daughter wanted to bring everything that was hers. So we just let her sleeping bag and sleeping pad and all of her clothes. So she did it.
Nice. Now,
Yeah.
just because I'm curious, because I don't have kids, is that something that you can take that backpack from the trail and use it for school as well? Is that something you can look into, or?
That's a great point and great idea. For us, just given the age of my kids, that size of hiking backpack is much smaller than what they need for school. So I would say it's helpful to have two, mostly just because you just don't if kids will if you say, here's your hiking backpack, then they will fill it with everything that they want to bring outside of the necessities. So smaller is better for hiking backpacks for kids.
When I started hiking, last year, I brought this tiny little backpack, and I was like, well, I need this and I need this, and I need a compass and I need a map and I need a sextant and I need, literally like everything you could possibly think of that I've never once used. I'm like, I have three flashlights, because you don't know, and it's the great,
Yeah, we're all kids. Yeah, we're
now
all
it's like
kids at heart.
throw a peanut butter sandwich in there and a bottle of water, you'll be fine. So,
Yeah.
you're also kind of pivoting a little bit here, but you're also the co-author of 50 Hikes with Kids. What is that project all about? This sounds cool.
Yeah. Oh, I am in the thick of this project. Super exciting. So, Wendy Gorton is the author of a handful of 50 Hikes with Kids editions in different states. So the first one was Washington, Oregon, and then there's a handful on the East Coast, and in California, she has one as well. And so Timber Press is the publishing company. They do beautiful field guides, and this is like a segment of their book selection that is focused on kids, and it's really gorgeous. And kind of to that point that you asked about when you were bringing your niece and nephew on hikes, it really does help with like keeping kids focused and having like not a giant a scavenger hunt that you may or may not see on every trail, but actual scavenger hunt items that we know you will see on that trail. And a lot of like maps that have all the fun, big rock and, rock to kid climbing rock and creek crossing, things that you wouldn't see on a normal map. That is more of like, okay, trying to get kids to that next level. Like, oh guys, don't worry, we're about to come up to the pirate plank bridge, things like that. So it's very kid focused, and just tons of nature facts. And it's been a blast. So it's 50 hikes in Colorado. So we have the state of Colorado, and really trying to have it span in, all of the corners of Colorado. So it's really helped me, get past the Rocky Mountains and the Front Range. So that's been fun. And we're just finishing up our last of our hikes, and then it'll be in printing soon, which is a long process. So it will be at least a year until you see it in the flesh, but it's really exciting.
I was thinking, as you were telling that story, I was like, man, if I was a kid and they made it look like a pirate map and they had, like a little chest here and a little X to mark the, I was like, I would hike all over that. So that's great that they have that resource out there.
Yeah.
And when it does come out in a year or so, would that be something through Amazon or through your website? Or?
Yeah, both. Yep, Amazon, my website, will be in all bookstores across Colorado, and hopefully in park visitor centers and REI, and everywhere we can be. So.
Is it something that's going to be like packable, like parents can have it in their backpack and help them find it?
I should have it right here. I don't. I always have it right here, but it's paperback, and it's like super like durable material, so you can put it on the ground, kids can step on it, you can throw it anywhere, and it fits in a kid backpack.
Oh, that's awesome. Well done.
Yeah, I'm it's very exciting. Thank you for asking about it. I'm excited about it.
You lit up when I asked you that question. You're also part of the I want to get this right, Kids Who Explore program. You're an ambassador for them. What's that about?
Yeah, so they are a website and kind of online community started by a handful of moms up in Canada. So all of their photos are gorgeous because they're all in the Canadian Rockies. And I think I was first drawn to their imagery of like kids in the outdoors, which was my daughter's first backpacking trip was up in the Canadian Rockies. So they're just a really fantastic group of parents who are trying to inspire parents to get outside, and they give a lot of tips. They have definite bear country up there, so a lot of bear country tips and how to have more confidence out in the wild and building communities, and planet cleanups. We did a planet cleanup in April. We're kicking off another one tomorrow, and they're kind of virtual and in your own communities. And so it's been a really fun group. They inspire me and a lot of other families I know.
Is that a Facebook group or a website? Or
they have a website, and they are an Instagram group, and they also they have a Facebook too, and they have a blog, and I think they feature blog writers, and they write their own blogs too.
Is it just kidswhoexplore.com for all the listeners out there?
Yep, kidswhoexplore.com will get you there. There's also, I think their original was kidswhoexplore.ca, but I think kidswhoexplore.com they also have now.
Nice. I think that's all the questions I have about children on the trail. They, not having kids. I came into this I didn't know where I was going, but I'm glad that I talked to you and actually got some good information. Is there anything else that you want to tell all the listeners out there, that I might not have touched at? Because I don't know what I don't know. So anything else that you can think to add to that?
I think, the only thing I would leave us with is just, just get out there and define your own hike, right? I think like we all have our own definition of what a hike is. For some, it might be a nature walk that is 0.25 miles. And for some, it might be 9 miles in the backcountry. And both of those are getting those same benefits for kids. I think it's really about the parent when you're going beyond that 0.25 miles. You're really doing it for what you enjoy. And if you enjoy it, do it. And if you don't enjoy it, don't force it. Stay small, stay slow. There's nothing wrong with that. There's so much beauty in that. So I would really say just, measure on your own. Don't measure versus what you see out there on Instagram or online of what it means to be a hiking family.
You triggered another question real quick.
Sure.
What about hiking in like neighborhood parks and things like that? Like, because there's a lot, especially in Colorado, there's a lot of like, 2 mile little tracks through the neighborhood.
Totally.
Is that
Totally.
a good way to get started before you get into
It's
the
it's
mountains?
a fantastic way to get started. I think it's especially for, for us, we were already hikers, right? But for a lot of families, they begin their hiking adventures when they have kids because it really is such a great way to fill a day. When you're a parent, you're just trying to fill a day. So, I think that those types of spaces that are close to you and, they have restrooms, things that you may not already be comfortable with yourself of, being in the woods and things like that. So I definitely, and especially here, and we face that a lot in Washington too. Like there are a lot of places that really they build their parks to be very natural spaces. And I think that's a great start.
One more time, what is your website for everyone out there?
Raisinghikers.com.
And it is a wonderful resource. Kristin, you're not off the hook yet. Are you ready
Yeah.
for the buffet?
Oh, sure.
The buffet is my an actual five this time, random rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Sure, let's do it.
Here we go. Number one. These are very tough. Number one, are you a camper, a glamper, or do you like to stay in hotels?
Ooh, glamper.
Glamper. That's the most common answer. Number two, are you more of a road trip person or would you rather fly to your destination?
Road trip.
I agree. Number three, what is your go-to snack on the trail?
Trail mix with dark chocolate. It has to have dark chocolate or else it's just nuts. So that's important.
I like that. What is the first thing that you eat or drink when you get off a hike?
An IPA and then ice cream.
Nice. Mine's Gatorade. I always have to have a Gatorade stuffed in the car, like in a cooler in the
Well,
car.
that's a much better answer.
No,
Much
it's
healthier for you.
no, it's not. The IPA is the best answer. I come home to write my blog. I always come home and I have a bowl of ice cream because it's like so
Perfect.
hot. It's so hot out there. And the last one, where would you rather be right now? A forest, a mountain, or a beach?
Ooh. The mountain has a lake. The mountain with a lake.
It's cheating, but we'll let it go. We'll let it go. Okay. She wins. Okay. The judges all agreed on that one. Kristin, the last segment that I do here is I usually pick my hike of the week where I just kind of describe my favorite hike. You're my guest this week, so the honor goes to you. What is one of your favorite hikes you've ever been on?
Ooh, I mean, I would have to say I just mentioned it, but honestly, Maroon Bells is got to be my favorite hike. We did that backpacking. We were pre-kids, and it has just always stuck with me as the best. And bringing my kids there was like a dream come true, and it'll be in the book. So
very nice. I have not been out there yet. That's one place I have
there
missed,
you go. So it's on your list.
It's just me getting excited about different hikes. That's the only reason I asked the question. Well, thank you so much, Kristin. Everybody check out raisinghikers.com. It's a great resource out there for you. Kristin, thank you again for being on the podcast this week.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. Appreciate it, Greg.
I enjoyed it as well. Well, I hope to see you guys all on the trail soon. This is going to wrap it up. So until then, happy hiking.